Welcome back to State of the FBS. I'm Micah, and today I'm going to be getting you ready for the 2025 college football season with my college football playoff predictions, my top 25 heading into the season, and my Heisman finalists, as well as my pick for the big Week 0 game, Farmageddon in Ireland between Kansas State and Iowa State. We're going to start it off with the top 25, move into my playoff predictions, and then I'll give y'all the Heisman and Week 0 pick at the end of the episode. Do make sure to like and subscribe if you've been enjoying the videos so far. I know the conference quarterback rankings had a lot of people enjoying them, and I hope this video gets a similar reception. It's been really fun to see the positive feedback so far from everyone. So thank y'all, and please do like and subscribe if you are enjoying the content. Diving right into the top 25, my number 25 team heading into the 2025 season is the Kansas State Wildcats. Led by a very solid quarterback in Avery Johnson. I love the running back of Dylan Edwards. There is some talent on the defense too. Austin Romaine leads this defense at linebacker, really the quarterback of this group. Very fun Swiss Army knife player too on this team in Will Swanson. Hybrid fullback, H-back type player, can do a lot of different things, but it really depends on how well Avery Johnson develops this season. I think he definitely has the talent to become a great quarterback. I think there are a lot of other really talented teams this season, and I can't take that much of a chance on Avery heading into this year, although I really do like his potential. So they are going to crack the top 25 for me in that final spot. At number 24 is Utah. The Utes have an interesting path forward this season. They brought in Devin Dampier from New Mexico last year, and he is a very, very talented running quarterback, bringing his offensive coordinator with him from New Mexico State, and with that, he gets one of the best offensive tackles in football in Spencer Fano, who leads a really talented Utah offensive line. And then his brother Logan Fano leads a very deep defensive line. The defensive line has a lot of returning talent. I like that group. They're very solid. And then the linebacker room is also highly experienced for the Utes this season. We know Kyle Whittingham's a solid coach. If he has talent, that team's going to be good. I fully believe Utah can make some noise this season. They're up at 24. TCU up at number 23. And I'll be honest, there's not a million things to love on this TCU team. Receiver Eric McAllister's quite good, and DB Bud Clark is also very solid. This is more me just really loving Josh Hoover. Josh Hoover, I think, is one of the best quarterbacks in college football this season. One of the most accurate passers in all of the FBS. Incredibly accurate, can just pick people apart. I think he's going to lead TCU to a few more wins than they maybe should deserve. So they're going to open the season at number 23 for me. Up at number 22, it's Michigan. And the big question for the Wolverines is, what does the offense look like this year? You have highly touted Bryce Underwood coming in, but there's not exactly a ton around him on the offense. The defense is super talented, though. You have edge rushers TJ Guy and Derek Moore. The defensive line is led by Rayshon Benny, and there's also some good talent in the secondary with Jair Hill and Zeke Berry back there in the back end. I think that CB duo is going to be better than a lot of people expect this year. I like both of those guys. And then the defensive line, you always know with Michigan, is going to be ferocious. It's just, can the offense keep up with it? And I'm not entirely sure that they can, especially with a true freshman starting, no matter how good that true freshman is. Up to number 21 to finish off the first five here is Texas Tech. And they've spent a ton of money recently. They're really leaning into it, too. I love the oil rigs in front of the stadium. I think that's funny. They have the highest quarterback recruit in program history at the time of recruitment in Baron Morton, starting this season, now in his third full-time season as the Texas Tech starter. And I think he is incredibly talented. He's another one of these really good Big 12 quarterbacks. I think the Big 12 is incredibly deep at QB this season. And then the issue for Texas Tech is a lack of running game. You lose Taj Brooks to the NFL. You think, okay, we got Quentin Joyner from USC to replace him. Quentin Joyner out for the season. So I don't know what the running game is going to look like to complement Baron Morton, but thankfully they did bring in a ton of talent on defense in the transfer portal, led by David Bailey and Lee Hunter on the defensive line, and then linebacker Jacob Rodriguez also should be a very solid player. And then the offensive line. You brought in essentially a whole new offensive line with Howard Sampson, Hunter Zambrano, and Will Jados in the portal, and all of those guys are very talented players. I believe they were all 3 4-stars in the portal. So really a lot of talent coming into Texas Tech. Can they capitalize on it? Very curious to see. Up to number 20, it's going to be Ole Miss. I have a lot of doubts with this team. And you might say, why are they at 20? Because Lane Kiffin does this every year. Brings in a ton of guys from the portal. I'm worried about if they're going to gel. And then he goes 9-3 every season. So I have enough faith in that to at least keep them in the top 25 for now. Austin Simmons is going to have to prove himself this year. Looks like a very talented player, does the lefty, former high school pitcher as well. But can he put it all together? I think he'll be very solid. So I'm going to keep Ole Miss up at number 20 for now. entire new receiving core with Harrison Wallace, Deshaun Stribling, and the tight end from Arkansas, Luke Haas, I think is a big pickup as well. Up to number 19 is Baylor, and this is the Sawyer Robertson show. He is extremely talented. Bryson Washington, also a great running back. You lose your RB2 and Dawson Pendergrass to injury, going to be out for a significant time, I believe the full season. And so with that, you're not going to have as much support in the run game. Maybe Sawyer Robertson is asked to do more with his legs, which he definitely has the ability to do. Another one of these very, very accurate Big 12 quarterbacks. Kobe Prentice, you bring across in the transfer portal. I think he'll be a solid addition. And then this linebacking core is also very, very talented, led by Keaton Thomas, who I think is one of the best linebackers in the Big 12 headed into the 2025 season. Up to number 18, it's the 8-4 brigade with Texas A&M. Marcel Reed and Le'Veon Moss are both studs. Freak athletes, going to be very good players in that Texas A&M backfield. You bring in a ton of transfers, as is tradition with a lot of these Texas teams, especially in the receiving core. Casey Concepcion, Noah Thomas, Mario Craver, all brought in from their respective destinations, and they're all very solid players. How many touches are there to go around? Can you keep all those guys happy? Will the Texas A&M offense even be dynamic enough to get the ball to all of them at all? I don't know. So I do have a couple doubts with this team. It feels like no matter how many times things change in the offseason, A&M's going to A&M. I hope that's not the case this season. I'd like to see them break through. I think that'd be very entertaining for college football as a whole. They have a solid offensive line. Will Lee III is one of my favorite players in college football. Such a fun DB to watch. Made Jade Mayava look pretty stupid a couple times in the Las Vegas Bowl last season. And linebacker Torian York is another member of preseason All-SEC teams that I think is going to provide much needed depth at the linebacking core and a star for this team on defense. Up to number 17, it's South Carolina, and the brigade of Stewart and Sellers is really what's leading this team. I don't know how much talent there is outside of that. You have Jalen Kilgore, who is a monster back at safety. Not quite Nick Eamon-Warry, but he's pretty dang good back there. And Lenore Sellers I have as my top quarterback in the SEC. If you saw that video, you would know that already. And he is just uber talented, can make things happen that not a lot of players can. And then Dylan Stewart is an absolute freak off the edge. It's just what else is there around them? And I'm not entirely sure there's a lot to help them out. So we'll see what happens in South Carolina. I would also love to see Nick Harbor become more of a receiver than just an athlete, and I think if he can do that, that's really going to lift the Gamecocks up. Number 16, it's Iowa State, one of these teams playing in Week 0, and they have, I think, the best duo of corners in the Big 12 with Jeremiah Cooper and Jontez Williams. They're both incredibly talented. Love both of those players. Offensive line is kept fairly consistent. I think that's very important in college football now. Rocco Becht, I think, is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the Big 12. He is a very solid player. Again, I think the Big 12 might be right up there with the SEC in terms of quarterbacks this year. I love a lot of these Big 12 QBs. And then you bring in 2 new receivers in Chase Sowell and Xavier Townsend. Can they replace Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel? I'm not sure, but they're going to have to try their best. And then on the defensive line, Dominique Orange is a returning wrecking crew in the middle of that group. So a lot of talent on this Iowa State team. I like them for this year. The Big 12 is going to be absolutely wide open. We'll see who can take advantage of it. Up to number 15, and onto this third group of 5 here, it is the Oklahoma Sooners. And this is a team that I really like on paper. I'm not sure if they can put it all together, but I love the talent. John Mateer was my favorite player in the portal. I love that Oklahoma was able to go grab him. If he can stay off of Venmo, sky's the limit for him. And then Jaden Ott to go out of California, another one of my favorite players in the portal. Oklahoma just loaded up on a lot of my favorite portal stars, to be honest, and so I have to have them pretty high because of that. I think that's a huge injection of talent into this team. You know Brent Venables is going to have the defense ready to go, so if the offense can produce, I think it's going to be great. They worked with a bit of a patchwork offensive line for a lot of last season. Actually, that's an understatement. The offensive line was decimated by injuries, and they tried about 1 million different starting combinations, and hence why Jackson Arnold got decked a lot of the time. And hopefully all your receivers don't get hurt this year either. I do like the defensive line. Grayson Halton and R. Mason Thomas are both incredibly talented players there. And then back in the secondary, you have Eli Bowen, who I think is a very fun defender. So Sooners at 15 for right now. Up at number 14, it is the Miami Hurricanes. And I think the best player on this team sits at offensive tackle in Francis Mauigoa. He is just a stalwart at the offensive tackle position. I think Carson Beck is going to love playing behind him this season. I would love to see these Miami receivers not have Teflon for hands like the Georgia receivers did last season. I think if they can do that, you're going to see Carson Beck take a step forward. Mario Cristobal is kind of weird for QB development. You look at what he did with Justin Herbert. He made Justin Herbert not really look like the player he ended up being. And I know there were a lot of people that were lower on Justin Herbert going into the draft as a result of that, because that Oregon offense didn't really let him showcase his full potential. But then with Cam Ward last year, you had a guy who took the college football landscape by storm. So kind of a mixed bag with QB development under Cristobal. I do have faith in Beck. I think 2023 Carson Beck was a very, very solid player. If he can find that, cut down on the interceptions a little bit, I really think this Miami team has a lot to like, especially with the running back duo of Mark Fletcher Jr. and Jordan Lyle. There's a lot to love on this offense. Defense led by Reuben Bain Jr. off the edge. Outside of that, it's not quite as talented. You're losing a lot. I feel like there's not as much athleticism on this Miami defense as you would usually see from them. And we'll just have to see how they can pick it up and develop going through the season. I know Cristobal prides himself on how his teams play in the trenches. We'll see if they can develop that in 2025. At number 13, it's going to be the Illinois Fighting Illini. And this is an interesting team. Under Brett Bielema, they were very solid last season. Took down South Carolina in the bowl game at the end of the year. And a lot of people think they're going to build on that this season. I know they're a dark horse college football playoff candidate. I'm not sure that I'd put them in there quite yet. The Big Ten is so loaded. I don't think Illinois is quite talented enough to make it out. I feel like a lot of this team is players that are very, very solid, but aren't superstar difference makers. And I think those are the kind of players you need to push forward. I think this Illinois team has about 10th to 15th written all over them. And with the group of 5 conference champion getting in, who knows how the committee is going to value a Big 12 champion, depending on who it is. I'm just not overly confident in the path of Illinois to a college football playoff berth if they're in the hunt with 2 SEC teams that have the same record. Because even if Illinois might be more impressive through the season, who do you think the committee is going to go with in that spot? So I do think they're talented, though. Luke Altmaier is a very reliable quarterback. Running back duo of Caden Fagan and Aiden Lowry, I think, is also quite solid. And then on the defensive line, James Johnson Jr. is a very talented player, can really eat up space, get after it. So I like him a lot. Illinois defense should be very solid overall this season, but I can't really put them much higher than 13 right now. Up at number 12, Indiana. And this is kind of like TCU, where I don't think this team is otherworldly talented, but Fernando Mendoza is. And I think Fernando Mendoza is really going to carry this team this year. You go turn on the tape of him at Cal, and some of the throws he made, he opened windows with his arm that really weren't there. And that was with a Cal supporting cast that was not that great, where they hurt Jaden Ott for good portions of the year. I think he's going to thrive at Indiana. In the Kurt Signetti offense, Elijah Surratt is incredible. I think Mendoza's going to love throwing to him. And then on the defensive side, Mikhail Kamara and D'Angelo Pons on defense are both just superstar players. And I think that those guys are enough to get Indiana kind of more up towards this top 10 range this season. And really, I cannot say enough about how much I think Fernando Mendoza is going to be a star this season. Can throw with anticipation so well, and is just one of the best quarterbacks in not just the Big Ten, but the country. Up at number 11, it's the Florida Gators. And I struggled where to place this team, to be honest, because so much of it's projection and can guys stay healthy. Trey Wilson at receiver has struggled to stay healthy. DJ Lagway has been banged up off and on with injuries. Caleb Banks just went down recently with a minor lower leg injury. And then this secondary feels like guys are always hurt. Asa Turner missed a lot of last year. But if they can put it together and develop, they're going to be so, so good. DJ Lagway has the potential to be a top quarterback in the country. I would not say he is right now. I think that he definitely needs to build on what he did last year. The fact that he was able to do what he did while playing hurt is incredible, and I think that needs to be commended. I would love to see him cut down on the mistakes, but this guy has all the talent in the world. If he can really keep growing into his role, he's going to be incredible. I love his personality. He seems like a really nice, humble guy, so respect that a ton for DJ Lagway. At running back, Jaden Ball is a bowling ball. It's a very fun nickname. I need to start calling him that. Call him a bowling ball. That would be a fun nickname. Anyway, I think he's extremely talented. This Florida offensive line, though, is one of the best in the country, led by center Jake Slaughter, first-team All-SEC. He is incredible. And then on the defensive line, once Caleb Banks is healthy, then you add him to Tyreek Sapp, LJ McCray, Cameron James, Joseph Mbachu, George Gums off the edge. This is just an uber-talented, almost NFL-like defensive line. Love that group a ton. And then outside, if Trey Wilson can stay healthy, add him with Dallas Wilson, J. Michael Sturdivant, Vernell Brown. This team is loaded with playmakers. I do think they're going to be able to develop. I really like this team. It feels like they're all primed to take a jump forward. And sometimes those teams are the teams that come out of nowhere and shock the world. So I really like this Florida team headed into 2025. They're going to stay just outside the top 10, though. And the first team in my top 10 is the Alabama Crimson Tide. This team is just got stars all over the place on the defense. Tim Keenan, LT Overton, Dante Lawson, Domani Jackson, Bray Hubbard, Keon Saab on the back end. It feels like there's talent everywhere you look with this team. But the offense, I just have some questions. Who is the best support outside of Ryan Williams for quarterback Ty Simpson? And then how good is Ty Simpson going to be? We haven't seen him as a full-time starter at all. And I extremely respect the fact that he stayed at Alabama and waited his turn. You don't see a ton of that in the transfer portal era, but how good is he going to be when he gets put in for the first time? And also, if you're Kalen DeBoer and Ty Simpson struggles, and it looks like you might miss a 12-team playoff, how long before the fans start calling for Keelan Russell? I think there's some factors at Alabama this year where I can't say nailed on they're going to be a top team despite the talent of the defense. The offensive line has some great talents on it too. Parker Brailsford's a great player. I would love to see Caden Proctor become a little bit more of a technician rather than just an athlete at the position. I feel like you have the potential to create Evan Neal 2.0 if he doesn't develop some more technique and quit relying on just his athleticism out on the side there. But he definitely has the tools to be one of the best players in college football if he can really hone that technique. And with all that together, I think Alabama definitely still deserves to be a top 10 team. Just in front of them, at number 9, is LSU. Garrett Nussmeier, one of the most experienced quarterbacks in college football as far as age heading into this season. Did sit behind Jaden Daniels, but stepped in last year and looked very solid while doing so. Caden Durham, I think, is a name that everyone needs to keep their eye on. He is lightning in a bottle at running back for LSU. I think he's a big play threat every time the ball touches his hands, and he could be a one-play touchdown at any given time. The receiver corps has been revamped. He brought in Nick Anderson from Oklahoma, Barrion Brown from Kentucky, Chris Hilton Jr. and Xavier Thomas remain. I think that's a very solid group. Nussmeier is definitely going to be able to work with them. Do have 2 new starting offensive tackles due to the loss of Emory Jones and Will Campbell. I still think they'll be fine. As far as the defense, Whit Weeks is the quarterback of this defense, very talented, rangy linebacker. I will say, is this the year that LSU finally figures out what to do with Harold Perkins? I would love it to be, but he just feels like a tweener. He has all the talent and athleticism in the world. Just can they figure out how to use him correctly? I definitely hope so because he's so talented. Up at number 8, it's the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And this is one of the top 3 secondaries in the country, I would say. Tennessee's definitely up there as well. You'll notice Tennessee has not been said yet. Don't trust the Volunteers offense at all. So they're out for now. Could definitely see them making it in. But Notre Dame's secondary led by Leonard Moore and Christian Gray at the cornerback spots. I am a sucker for a good DB, and both of these guys are stars. Love turning on the tape, watching both of them. They're just long, rangy, can get to anything. They're super, super talented. I love both of those guys. At running back, Jeremiah Love is probably a top 10 player in college football headed into this season. Just an incredible talent at running back. Hurdled a guy while he had a no hurdles rule versus Penn State last season. So maybe he just thought he was lightly jumping and his legs are just so powerful he went over the guy. Anyway, I don't know, but he's a freak. CJ Carr has been named the starter. I think that's the correct decision by Notre Dame. I really like this guy. I think he can be a very solid game manager and leader, which is what this Notre Dame team usually rocks out with at quarterback. At number 7, Arizona State. I think the Sun Devils are primed to go back-to-back in the Big 12 this season. Sam Levitt might be one of my favorite players in college football. I wouldn't say he's one of the best yet, and he still has to develop, but I think he will do that this season. And I love watching this guy play. Really started as more of a runner last season, settled in. The Kenny Dillingham QB machine continues to just churn him out from Jordan Travis, Bo Nix, now Sam Levitt. If you want to be a good quarterback, go play for Kenny Dillingham. At receiver, Jordan Tyson, I think, is the second best receiver in the nation. Yes, I said second. Jeremiah Smith, obviously far and away the best, but I like Jordan Tyson over Ryan Williams as of right now. I think he is just a freak talent on the outside, and turn on the tape. Turn on some Jordan Tyson tape and run it side by side with Ryan Williams. I know Williams has the signature moment versus Georgia, showed up in big games. Jordan Tyson didn't get the opportunity because he was hurt before the playoff. I think if he would have been playing in the playoff, a lot of people would have known who Jordan Tyson was by the end of this year. You bring in Kanye Udo from Army. I think he'll be solid. Not quite Cam Scatabo, but you do need a new running back, and he can fill that role. As for the defense, It's an experienced group. I just don't know how talented it is. I'm a little bit worried about them all holding together this season. CJ Fite, I do think, is a very good anchor on the defensive line. You just need the rest of this defense to continue to develop and come along, and I think Arizona State will be just fine. So they're going to be at number 7 for me. Number 6 is the Oregon Ducks, and I'm not sure about Dante Moore. A lot of the stuff I've seen of him in camp, they had QB battles going on, like kind of QB battles. I don't know what the idea is. Is it just a manufacturer competition, try to get the competitive juices flowing? I don't know, but I was a little scared by his tape at UCLA, and he really needs to be able to develop well if he's going to step into the starting role effectively for the Ducks. There is a ton of talent on this team, though. Losing Evan Stewart for the year is very tough. He is one of the best receivers in college football when healthy, and to not have him is a pretty killer blow. Although you do bring in Mekhi Hughes at running back, who is a very talented player. Not that that makes up for Evan Stewart being out, but at least you have a stud at running back. The Tulane transfer will be. And then on the defense, Mateo Uyunglele is just a freak off the edge. Maybe they should try DJ off the edge, see if he's better than he is at quarterback. But Mateo is definitely a really, really good edge talent. And then at linebacker, Bryce Bodicher, I think, is also a very solid player for the Ducks. And then the secondary should be good as well. As far as the receivers, I would love to see DeCorian Moore break out as a freshman in the absence of Evan Stewart. I think that'd be really fun. But this team is very talented overall. We know Dan Lanning can coach, so the Ducks are going to stay at number 6. Up at number 5, it's the Georgia Bulldogs. And this comes down to inexperience at quarterback, which is not something that these other 3 teams above are really dealing with. Well, one of them kind of, but I think that team's supporting cast is better than Georgia's. As far as Georgia goes, the running back duo is great. Nate Frazier, they brought in Josh McCray from Illinois. I think that's a very underrated pickup. He was great for the Illini last season. You have a very solid offensive line. On defense, though, that's where these Bulldogs shine. Christian Miller, CJ Allen, KJ Bolden, Dalen Everett. It feels like the stars in this defense really never stop. There's so many athletes. All these guys are athletic freaks. Just don't let them near a car. The special teams is very reliable as well. This Georgia team is incredibly talented. You bring in Zachariah Branch at receiver too. I love that addition. I think he'll be great for them. Just please tell the Georgia receivers they have to catch the football with their hands. They struggled to do that a lot last year. I have faith in Gunnar Stockton to be able to play okay, especially with the better talent around him this year. And yes, I did say better talent. I think Georgia improved the supporting cast. Number 4, Texas and Arch Manning. I know everyone wants to talk about Arch Manning. Ooh, Arch Manning is going to be the best quarterback in the country. Arch Manning. Everyone's waiting for Arch Manning. It's finally Arch Manning time. Look at the running backs. The running backs on this team are so good, and I hate that they're getting overshadowed. I feel like no one cares about these Texas running backs because of Arch Manning. Quintravian Wisner is a bowling ball, and CJ Baxter is a human joystick that can also be incredibly effective out of the backfield. I feel like everyone just forgot that CJ Baxter existed after missing last season due to an injury. I think he is going to be one of the best running backs in college football, and Quintravian Wisner is going to be right there with him. It's a killer duo at running back. If you have those two to take the pressure off Arch, he'll be able to settle in, really make throws, and I think be a very good quarterback for the Longhorns. Then on defense, some of the best players in the country. Colin Simmons off the edge, right there with Dylan Stewart for best sophomore defensive player in the country. I would give the edge to Simmons right now. I think he's just a freak. At linebacker, Anthony Hill Jr., one of the rangiest linebackers I've ever seen in coverage. Dude can absolutely fly, can absolutely hit, can diagnose plays, is incredible. Out on the secondary, out at corner, Malik Muhammad, great player, long, rangy. Michael Taft at safety, definitely kind of committed targeting against Arizona State, but we're not going to talk about that. He's a very, very good player, appears to be a stand-up guy as well. I love the feature they did on him and his childhood friend at College Game Day last year. That was a very nice story, and I have a lot of respect for Michael Taft, both for that and then the tie he wore to SEC Media Days. If you haven't heard about that, go look that up. Another very good story by Michael Taft. But Texas, again, under Steve Sarkisian, very talented team. I think a top 4 team in the nation headed into the year. Number 3, Penn State. And everyone's favorite and not favorite quarterback, depending on who you ask, Drew Aller. He is so polarizing, and I don't quite understand why, because he has all the traits in the world, and 90% of the time on the big stage, he's played pretty well. And I think that's really all you can ask from a guy who was in that position for really not that many times in his career leading up to that point. I think he's only going to get better this season. They have another two-headed monster at running back like Texas. They have Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. Singleton's a Lightning, Allen's the Thunder. They're both incredibly talented. There's a very good defensive line, too, led by Zane Durant and Danny Dennis Sutton. And then back in the secondary is Akeem Wheatley, I think is a very talented safety who I love to watch play. Can kind of be all over the place. At number 2, Ohio State. And this is the team I talked about who's above Georgia, who also has a not very experienced QB, Julian Sayin. And I think the difference here is Julian Sayin has the best receiver prospect to throw to since Julio Jones and Jeremiah Smith. He is a freak. You've heard all about Jeremiah Smith by now, so I'm not going to talk about him ad nauseum, but Carnell Tate is also a very, very solid receiver for this Ohio State team. Offensive line should be good. And then as far as the defense, talent everywhere. I love Davis Igbinosun. I think he's a very fun player out there at corner. Sonny Styles, very good linebacker, diagnosing, making plays. Off the edge, Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson. They've been here for a while. I believe they're both going into their 4th year at Ohio State and are just now getting starting jobs. Got a lot to replace in Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau, but I think that they might be up to the task. And that just leaves one team here in the top 25 rankings. That is the Clemson Tigers. And from everyone that I've already talked to about this list, I know a lot of people do not agree with this. I would love to hear why. This team is just uber talented. They have a proven head coach in Dabo Swinney. Garrett Riley is a good offensive coordinator. They bring in Tom Allen from Penn State to be the defensive coordinator. And Tom Allen comes into a defense that is stacked. TJ Parker off the edge. PJ Woods on the defensive line, or Peter Woods, excuse me, not PJ, Peter Woods on the defensive line. Sammy Brown at linebacker is just a freak athlete, probably one of the most athletic linebackers in all of college football. And then AJ's younger brother, Avion Terrell, on the outside at corner is a ball hawk that covers people like glue. He is so good out there on the boundary, and I love watching him play. Then you turn on the tape for the offense. Cade Klubnik, in my opinion, the best quarterback in college football this season. He just does everything well. He doesn't have the elite arm or elite traits of some of the other quarterbacks, but he does everything so well, fundamentally sound, doesn't turn the football over, can make things happen with his legs, hyper accurate. Then you look at the receivers he's throwing to now. Antonio Williams out on the outside, Bryant Wesco Jr., TJ Moore. These are freaks at the receiver position. The running back room should be good. You move Adam Randall out of the receiver room into the running back room. I think that fits his body type better anyway. And then freshman Gideon Davidson is also another one of these guys that's lightning in a bottle. I think he's going to be very, very good. Offensive line is solid, experienced. You absolutely need that in current college football. And I just don't think there are really many holes on this Clemson team at all. They're deep too. Well, actually, there's one hole. The hole is the special teams. They need to figure out the special teams. Last year, the punting was an absolute unmitigated disaster, and so was kicking for most of the season. Nolan Hooser does seem to have righted the ship in fall camp. I know he struggled a bit to start that, but he's solid now. Obviously had the huge game-winning kick in the ACC championship, and there's still apparently like a two-way competition, three-way competition for punter for the Tigers right now. So we'll see if that gets worked out. Hopefully they won't be punting too much because I think this offense is absolutely incredible. So they do take my number one spot. On to the college football playoff predictions now. And first off, I'm going to give you my 5 just missed teams. That'd be TCU at 13, Baylor at 14, 2 teams who I really love their quarterback. I'm just not sure the rest of the team around them is good enough to get stuff done. Alabama at 15, exactly the opposite. Love the rest of the team around him. Not sure about the quarterback. At number 16, Oklahoma. Like I said, love Mateer and Ott. I think they're going to take this team to a new level. Brent Venables will have the defense sorted out. I just don't think it's quite enough. And then number 17 is Miami. I think people are hating on Carson Beck a bit too much. I also think it's ridiculous he's top 5 in Heisman odds. I feel like there are a bunch of people overrating Carson Beck and a bunch of people overhating Carson Beck. And I really don't know how that happened, where you have extremes on both sides for this guy. It's like a different version of how people feel about Drew Aller. But I think Miami will be solid. They grabbed the number 17. Now into the actual CFP predictions. At number 12 is going to be UNLV. They are my group of 5 team getting in here. Debated between James Madison. I like Alonzo Barnett a lot. I just think that UNLV has solid talent too and an easy schedule. Dan Mullen is very good at getting more wins than he should out of these slightly lesser talented teams. Just don't ask the guy to recruit at all. That was a disaster towards the end of his Florida tenure. But both Alex Orji and Anthony Calandria, I think, are very, very good quarterbacks for this level of play. Neither of them quite worked out. Orji at Michigan, Calandria at Virginia, but I think they're both very talented players. So I have them winning the Mountain West and taking the Group of 5 spot. They do have a tough game on the road at Boise State, and they do host UCLA at home. However, I think they still go probably about 11-1 this season and get that spot. At number 11, give me the Florida Gators. Like I said, I think this team is incredibly talented. I think they put it all together. Billy Napier finally breaks through, and Florida heads to the college football playoff for the first time since its introduction in 2014. And not to say they made it in 2014. Their first time. They would make the college football playoff for the first time. At number 10 is Notre Dame. Love the secondary. If you can't throw the ball on a team, going to be hard to beat them. I think they're incredibly talented. CJ Carr, I think, like I said earlier, is the right man for the job for the Irish. And I think they lead Notre Dame into the playoff. Obviously, no conference championship, but the seeding's different now anyway, where that's not how you seed teams. It's just by who's ranked the highest at the end of the year. Number 9 is Indiana. You know how I feel about Fernando Mendoza. I think he's going to be able to get Indiana enough wins to get them into this playoff position. And I think Indiana having more respect at the start of the season will benefit them to where they can get into this easier rather than last year if they started far back and then had to keep jumping teams as they went towards the playoff. And I love this offense under Curve Signetti. I think they'll be great. At number 8 is LSU. I love the talent offense, again, of this team. I think this defense is a little underrated, too. Whit Weeks is an incredible leader for this team, and I think he's really going to have a solid group around him to rally and make plays. The 6'5 freshman corner that they have, I don't know if he's playing. I can't remember his name right now. Oh, it's going to drive me crazy. What is his name? DJ Pickett. Should have remembered that. It's a sick name for a corner. Anyway, I doubt he plays much this season, but he is a super fun prospect. As for the offense, Caden Durham, I think, is going to be a revelation this season and take some pressure off. Take a lot of pressure off, actually, of Garrett Nussmeier in the passing attack. It's just, can you overcome having Brian Kelly as the head coach? Difficult to do. I do think they still sneak into the playoff. Well, not sneak in. Be in the playoff at number 8. At number 7, it's Oregon. I think the Ducks are going to be slightly hampered by Dante Moore this year if he can't develop quickly. I think they might stumble early. I think that gets them a little behind in the Big Ten race of your Ohio States and Penn States of the world. So I think they end up in this range headed into the playoff, but still a very talented team. At number 6, Big 12 champions Arizona State. Sam Levitt, Jordan Tyson, Go Burr, I think is really the recipe for the Sun Devils this season. They're very, very good with that duo, and the defense I think will be good enough, especially in this Big 12, which there's so much quarterback talent in this Big 12. I think you're going to see a lot of high-scoring games this season, and I'd definitely tune in the Big 12 this year. It's going to be entertaining. At number 5 is Georgia. The defense is so talented. I think they still win a lot of these games if they need to. They get some teams at home this year if they didn't last year. Texas at home, Alabama at home. I think that really helps out the Bulldogs. I think they definitely split that probably. I can see them beating Alabama, losing to Texas. And this Georgia team, I think with the way their schedule lays out, is going to be very, very solid. So number 5 for the Bulldogs. At number 4, Ohio State. I think this comes down to Julian Sayin isn't quite ready compared to Drew Aller and Penn State. So Ohio State takes the number 2 spot in the Big Ten for me, although the rest of this team is so ridiculously talented. I think they're going to be just fine. And who knows, maybe they can make a playoff run. At number 3, Texas. This is my favorite running back duo in the country. I talked about C.J. Baxter and Quintravian Wisner earlier, and this defense just has some freaks on it, like I mentioned with Anthony Hill Jr., Colin Simmons, Malik Muhammad, Michael Taft. This team will be ready to go, incredibly talented. I do think Arch Manning will be good this season. Texas at number 3 and winning the SEC. At number 2, it's my Big Ten champion in Penn State, and I know people are going to say, James Franklin can't win big games. He almost won all of them last year and just was a couple bad plays away from walking out of the Orange Bowl with a win over Notre Dame. Or was that the Orange Bowl? Whatever the bowl was they played Notre Dame in last year. Yeah, it was the Orange Bowl. And so Penn State, I think, is super talented. This team is going to be ready to go. I think the quarterback is really the difference with them versus Ohio State. Like I mentioned, I trust Drew Aller more than Julian Sayin. So give me the Nittany Lions at number 2. And then my national champion for 2025 is the Clemson Tigers. I think this is the most talented, the deepest, the most well-rounded team in college football this season with the best quarterback in the nation on the roster. So at least for me, when you put it that way, how do you pick anyone other than the Tigers? I think that Dabo Swinney is definitely going to have these guys ready to go this season. If the special teams can be at least above average, I think the Tigers will be just fine. So give me Clemson to take home the Natty in 2025. Now for the Heisman predictions, my top 4 preseason. Cade Klubnik, I think that makes sense. You guys know I've called him the best quarterback in the nation twice now in this video. Drew Aller at number 2. Another guy I really like, I think Penn State's going to be great. And if you're a very good quarterback on a top 3 team, you're probably going to be invited to New York. Jeremiah Smith, I think you're going to see kind of a Devontae Smith, Mac Jones situation where the Ohio State offense is prolific, but a lot of it is Jeremiah Smith being a freak, even though the quarterback might not be the most otherworldly talent and best player on his team. So Jeremiah Smith makes it to New York. And then Sam Levitt. I really think this guy's going to be great. I think if the Sun Devils end up 11-1 or 12-0 with Big 12 championship, Sam Levitt's going to get called to New York. I think that Arch Manning is just on the outside looking in. He's probably my first guy out right now. And then Josh Hoover of TCU, I have as my second guy out. And that might seem crazy because I didn't even have TCU making the playoff, but it's sixth in the Heisman finals. It's not like I'm saying he's going to win it. And also, I think he's incredible. So get some respect on Josh Hoover's name headed into the 2025 season. So that's the Heisman wrap-up, and now for the Week 0 prediction. Farmageddon in Dublin, Ireland, between Iowa State and Kansas State. I don't know if y'all saw on Twitter the fact that some pubs were ordering Kansas State flags, as in like the blue one with the seal of Kansas, instead of Kansas State flags, the purple ones. So that's a sign. Iowa State is winning the game. But in all seriousness, I do think the Cyclones take this one. I just have more faith in Rocco Beck than I do in Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson has all the talent in the world, but I think it's still a bit raw. And I think the Iowa State secondary is definitely good enough to keep Johnson in check, maybe force some mistakes. And so I think the Cyclones take home the Week 0 win in Farmageddon in Dublin. But thank you guys for tuning into this one. I know a lot packed into this video, but I wanted to get this all out before the season started. And obviously, back at class here at university, a lot of stuff getting going, so I've been pretty busy, but still wanted to get this out for you guys. But if you did enjoy the video, again, do make sure to like, subscribe, and keep tuned for the rest of the episodes that are going to be coming out over the next few months as the college football season really gets going. This is one of my favorite times of the year. Absolutely love it. College football is finally back. So thank y'all for watching. I've been Micah, and I'll see you next time on State of the FBS.